Welcome to Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Our topic today is chronic pain, how to minimize it or eliminate it by changing your brain. My guest is one of the world's leading experts on the brain, best-selling author Dr. Daniel Amen, whose latest book is called Change Your Brain, Change Your Pain. Break free from the doom loop of physical and emotional suffering. Dr. Amen, thanks for being with us. Great to see you as always.
Hi, Lori. So great to be with you.
So this particular topic is one that affects so many of us. It's estimated 1 in 5 Americans suffers from chronic pain. Oftentimes it's back pain. And we're talking about pain that doesn't seem to ever go away, and doctors can't seem to get a handle on it. But this is sort of a breakthrough by understanding, and this is a revolutionary idea to many people, that pain is perceived and processed in our brain, and therefore we can manage it that way by understanding how it works.
Well, that's why I wrote this book. There's so many people that suffer, and most people don't know that pain is ultimately processed and lives in your brain, and that 80% of people my age, I'm 70, have abnormal back MRIs who have no pain at all. They're always abnormal. And then the doctor often recommends surgery. But when you understand, almost everybody your age is going to have an abnormal MRI, and most of them have no pain at all, the fear around the MRI begins to go away, and you start looking for other ways to manage the pain.
Just because you have an abnormal MRI, in other words, if it looks like you're having some sort of compression, a disc is being compressed, that doesn't mean that's what's causing your pain. Is that what you're saying?
It's exactly right. And when you optimize and balance your brain, the pain often is less, or in some cases, particularly mine, it goes away. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean surgery's not indicated, but it's never the first and only thing you do. Talk about one study in the book where surgery and the care like I'm talking about were compared to each other, equally effective, but surgery had 21 times the number of side effects. And at Amen Clinics, we do brain imaging work. And one of the things I've learned is that general anesthesia is not good for your brain. Children who have general anesthesia have a higher incidence of learning problems. Adults who have general anesthesia have a higher incidence of memory problems. So when people would recommend surgery to me, I'm like, I'm going to do whatever I can to minimize anesthesia. So what else can I do? And one of the reasons I wrote the book is I'm very curious about why the supplement SAMe, acetylmethionine, or the antidepressant Cymbalta work for both depression and pain. And it's because depression and pain share some of the same circuitry in the brain, because it's decreasing that part, not in your back or your neck, but it's decreasing those pain circuits in your brain. And Change Your Brain, Change Your Pain is not just about physical pain. It's also about how to manage emotional pain, because they run on the same circuits.
A lot of people who suffer from chronic pain think this idea that it's all in your head. And they've been told this before, and that's very insulting in many ways, because it sounds like you're imagining it. But what you're saying is absolutely true. And if people have any doubt that pain is processed and perceived in the brain, look at people who have phantom limb pain. A couple of months ago, I interviewed a soldier who lost both of his legs in battle in Afghanistan, and he had been suffering from terrible foot pain. He lost both of his legs, and his pain in his feet was excruciating. Understanding this idea that pain is perceived and processed in our brain, we have to focus on the brain. And you talk about this thing called the doom loop, where oftentimes the pain is real at the beginning, and then your anxiety attached to the pain becomes so great, and your depression attached to the pain, that it becomes a loop, and then that kind of feeds the pain. Can you talk about this doom loop?
Well, the pain is real in both cases. It's real pain. And yes, it's in your head, but it's because your brain is in your head. It's not in your imagination, but it's real and leaving a signature in the brain. And I talk about three pain systems. So there's the feeling pathway. That's when your brain activates and you're like, oh, it's my neck, it's my knee, it's my back. So there's a feeling pathway. But what that then turns on is the suffering pathway. And those are structures toward the middle, deep part of your brain that when you feel angst, when you feel darkness, when you feel negativity, they become active. And then there's a calming pathway in the brain, which is mostly your prefrontal cortex, which is why children should never hit soccer balls with their forehead, because the front part of your brain actually dampens down or tamps down pain. And so it's those three pathways. And what I discovered is something I call the doom loop. And it's sort of the star of the new book. So pain for any reason, and it can be physical pain, emotional pain, relational pain, or even spiritual pain. I talk about moral injuries and how they are associated with pain. So pain for any reason, which then activates the suffering pathway. And now we smear the pain with fear, with darkness, with horror. And so we begin to imagine this pain is going to get out of control, which then leads to an invasion of ants or automatic negative thoughts. This will always be with me. I will age badly. I won't be able to work. I won't be able to make love. I won't be able to play with my children, for example, which then leads to nervous tension and the muscle tension and repressed emotions, which we'll talk about, then accelerate the pain, which then leads to harmful habits, whether it's opiates or alcohol or marijuana or sugar. And that just puts you into this quagmire or the doom loop that just feeds itself. Well, then you have to get into a healing loop, which we can talk about.
Those of us who have suffered with chronic pain recognize the doom loop almost exactly the way you described it. And I will say, when you're going through it, you feel very isolated, like you're the only one. It's also very helpful to know that many people are going through this, have gone through it. It's a very common thing, this doom loop. And praise the Lord, and thank you so much, Dr. Amen. There is a way out, because this is something that is so needed for so many people in America. We're going to take a break and be right back with Dr. Daniel Amen. The book is called Change Your Brain, Change Your Pain. Break free from the doom loop of physical and emotional suffering. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Healthy Living. We're talking with Dr. Daniel Amen, the brain expert and author of the new book, Change Your Brain, Change Your Pain, and how our brain and controlling and managing our thoughts and our actions can actually minimize or eliminate our pain. So you really set it up perfectly in the last segment. And now let's get to the good part. How do we break that doom loop cycle and get into a healing cycle? And in your book, you talk about changing our thinking, but also changing a lot of our activities, exercise, sleep, eating right, having good relations, etc.
So if there's a doom loop, there's also a healing loop. And God created our bodies to heal. If 80% of people my age who have no pain at all have abnormal back MRIs, and 70% of us have abnormal neck MRIs who have no pain at all, your body is meant, as we age, to sort of create routes around the pain and heal. So if you get that one idea in your mind, God created my body to heal, that helps. And relief is the acronym I have for the healing loop. And the R is recognize the triggers. So people with chronic pain, it's generally not all bad all the time. There are better days than others. And I want you to have the mindset of when no pain, or learn, really begin to study the pain. What makes it better? What makes it worse? What triggers it? It's often repressed emotions or some of the food you're eating. When I was 35, I had chronic arthritis in my hands and my knees and my feet. And I hated it because with young children, I had trouble getting off the floor. And then one of my patients came into my office and she said, when I stopped aspartame, the artificial sweetener in diet soda, my pain went away. And I think my patients have taught me the most about what I do as a doctor. So I was listening to her, and no lie, Lori, I was having 32 ounces of Diet Pepsi a day. Jack in the Box. So this was before I knew better.
Mm.
I'm going to stop the aspartame. No lie, pain went away. And of course, I'm not that smart, so I had to test it a couple of months later. Pain came back immediately. And there's some very interesting research on aspartame, which is in 5,000 products. And so recognize the triggers. And for me, aspartame is a trigger for pain. And so I broke up with it. But if you are curious about your pain, you're going to learn so much about yourself. So it's understanding, are the triggers biological, like you didn't sleep well, or you had aspartame, or some other food problem, corn in particular, psychological, negative thinking, relational, you had a fight with your spouse or your child, or you had a problem at work, or spiritual, you're doing something against your own values. So recognize the triggers, and then we want to ease, that's the E, the suffering pathway. And there's some very simple tools, and there are some supplements like SAMe or saffron, one of my favorite, that help calm down your emotional brain. And then it's critical to let go of the negativity, to kill the ants, to not believe every stupid thing you think, especially around pain, and begin to plant positivity in your head. This is so important. I just published a study on over 2,000 people showing that negativity drops activity in the front part of your brain. What we talked about, the front part of your brain is the calming pathway in the brain that helps decrease pain or put a brake on pain, and negativity lowers your frontal lobe and accelerates pain. And then the I is initiate relaxation. We need to get your muscles calmer, healthier, but also initiate emotional expression, because repressed emotions, particularly anger, drives muscle tension and pain. I spend a lot of time in the book talking about, well, how do you know if you have repressed rage and how do you get it out? I think it's very important. And then engage in healthy habits, which is so important, and then fostering hope. So there's a chapter on each of these steps in the book with a story. And one of my favorite stories in the book is a 13-year-old girl who had something called complex regional pain syndrome, which is a very serious pain disorder. She was a very active child, and playing soccer, she broke her ankle in 3 places, but then pain just got completely out of control. And about a year later, doing the program, and just like randomly, she said, "Oh, I ran 5 miles with my friend." And I just looked at her like, oh my goodness. So there is so much hope.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to take another break and be right back with Dr. Daniel Amen. The book is called Change Your Brain, Change Your Pain. Stay with us. Welcome back, and we're talking with Dr. Daniel Amen, author of the book Change Your Brain, Change Your Pain. This is the solution, folks, for people who have chronic pain. If you go to the doctor time and time and time again, and the doctor really can't find out what's causing your pain, this is the book that you need to read. And what I love about it, Dr. Amen, is that it is doable. People are like, I can't change my thoughts. But there are exercises in here, and if you just take it one day at a time and do these certain things, you'll start to notice change, right?
Well, every day you win or you learn. And when you get that mindset that God created my body to heal, you know you could make your pain worse. That if you don't sleep well, if you worry more, if you eat bad food, if you're paying attention, you clearly can make your pain worse. I just want you to pay attention so that you can put your brain and your body in a healing environment. And we all can train our thoughts. I love Romans 12:2, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And most Christians know that verse, but they don't know the second part of it. Then you can test and see if it fits God's good, pleasing, and perfect will. So does this thought fit God's good, pleasing, and perfect will? Or Philippians 4:8, think on whatever is true, right, good, lovely, worthy of praise. Let your mind dwell on these things. We have to train our brain, because so many people, it just defaults to negativity. And that's clearly not good for you and is going to accelerate the pain. But then I want you to be thinking about, what am I doing day to day that increases my pain? What am I eating? Things like aspartame, sugar, pro-inflammatory foods. Or what am I doing to decrease the pain? And then just be curious. So many people with chronic pain reach for opiates. That is a short-term solution that is going to create a long-term problem. I actually talk about a study in the book where opiates make your white blood cells angry and increase inflammation in your body.
You know, so many people go for that short-term pain. Yes, those pills make you feel better right away. Yeah, alcohol does it. Yeah, chocolate chip cookies will do it. But really, in the long run, that will make your pain worse. And I love how you talk about scripture, because God does tell us that we can control what we think. A lot of people say, I can't control my negative thoughts. Yes, you can. And your book talks about how to go about doing that and changing the way we think. There's so much great stuff in there. We're going to take one final break and be right back with Dr. Daniel Amen. The book is called Change Your Brain, Change Your Pain. Stay with us. Well, we've been getting some great, hopeful information from Dr. Amen today. The book is called Change Your Brain, Change Your Pain. This is how to break free from chronic pain. 1 in 5 Americans suffer from it. Unfortunately, Dr. Amen, we just scratched the surface. Tell our viewers where they can get the book and find out more information about you.
They can get the book anywhere great books are sold, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and they can listen to our podcast, Change Your Brain, every day, or follow me on Instagram or TikTok at Doc Amen, or go to amenclinics.com. So Amen like the last word in a prayer, clinics.com.
And this is just such wonderful information and gives hope to so many people who suffer from chronic pain. And I just wanted to thank you so much for all the many, many years of work that you've done. You've changed so many lives. And this, to me, is one of your best work. And that's really saying a lot.
Thanks, Lori. So great to see you.
You can probably tell I've suffered from chronic pain before, too. And I know what you're saying is absolutely true. It's worked for me. All right. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time. And our thanks once again to Dr. Amen. And thanks to you for tuning in to this edition of Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson, and we'll see you again next week. Bye, everyone.